With one blink, everything around him changed in an instant. Before his eyes lay a city ablaze, its flames reaching high into the sky. Even though Jin-Woo was safe inside the magic circle, the heat felt so fierce that his skin burned as if on fire. He set down the bag he'd brought along and pulled out 2 items. The first was a sleek black cloak called the Robe of Wind. Jin-Woo slipped on not just the robe, but also a plain ring glowing with water magic. With the hood pulled over his head, he felt like a true mage hunter, ready for action. His body cooled down as if he were standing in a chilly cave. He wondered, will this robe really protect me from the fiery inferno ahead? Stepping out of the teleportation circle slowly, he pondered, was the robe worth all that I've given up? Unlike last time, the heavy heat didn't slow him down. Can I move around easily with this on? He tried moving around and found it was surprisingly comfy. The Robe of Wind felt as light as air. Nice. He was ready, but he wasn't the only one. Sniffing out the scent of a human, packs of demons began sneaking up. Normally he'd take them all down without breaking a sweat, either as a warm-up or to chase every last one and boost his level, but not today. This time it was personal because it involved his mom's treatment, and he couldn't afford to waste even a second. Instead of pulling out his daggers, Jin-Woo called in reinforcements, his shadow soldiers. They popped up with a cool V-voom. But where was Fang? Jin-Woo looked around, confused because Fang should be right behind him since he's a top-tier soldier. Spotting him, Jin-Woo handed over the Sphere of Avarice. Here, this might supercharge your spells today, he said, even though it didn't help him as a mage hunter. Fang bowed deeply, clearly stoked. Suddenly, heavy footsteps shook the ground. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Enormous demons emerged, looking mean and ready to rumble. Jin-Woo gripped his daggers tightly and shouted to his team, let's do this. Get ready to fight. The battle was on. Demons surged toward Jin-Woo, like a tidal wave of monsters. But he wasn't alone, he had his own army ready to fight. This time, Jin-Woo felt way calmer than before. He waited for just the right moment to strike. Move, he shouted. But before he could finish, a roaring flame shot over his head and slammed into the demons. The fire swept across them like a deadly wave. What is that? Someone screamed, as the flames burned everything in their path. Demons and ground alike, the monsters shrieked and disappeared quickly. And Jin-Woo heard that familiar beep. You have leveled up. Ars? You have leveled up. Ars? He glanced back, his heart pounding like crazy. No way, this was insane. Fang stood there twice as big as before, with gray smoke puffing out of his mouth. Jin-Woo gulped hard. So this is what the Sphere of Avarice can do, he thought. These demons should have been tough, since they lived in the demon's castle. But Fang had turned them all into ashes. Jin-Woo couldn't help but laugh at how crazy it all was. Looks like I'll clear this place way faster than I expected, he thought, grinning as he stared at the scorched ground and burning demon remains. With the boost from the Sphere of Avarice, Fang was unstoppable. Then Fang took a deep breath. For a second, the air around him felt chilly as woo. Suddenly, flames shot out of his mouth left and right, turning enemies into ash. Notifications started popping up one after another. You have defeated a high-rank demon. You have acquired 1,700 experience points. You have defeated an archdemon. You have acquired 2,200 experience points. You have defeated a high-rank demon. You have acquired 1,700 experience points. The messages kept rolling in as Fang tore through the demons, like they were nothing. The electronic chimes kept ringing non-stop. Jin-Woo couldn't help but smile. It was amazing. Fang finally ran out of mana, and stopped his attack. With just one swing, Fang had destroyed almost all the demons heading their way, but a few lucky ones got away, and his other shadow soldiers quickly finished them off. Stomp, 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 stomp. Jin-Woo felt like a true shadow monarch, as he watched his army of over 100 shadow soldiers in action. The good news just kept coming. You have defeated a high-rank demon. You have defeated a high-rank demon. Boom! Jin-Woo had just defeated a bunch of monsters without even breaking a sweat. His shadow soldiers did all the work, but Fang stood out as the real MVP. Way to go, Fang. Jin-Woo looked up at his powerful ally. Fang, once an orc shaman, was now a towering shadow mage. He was as big as a giant, and the Sphere of Avarice in his hand had grown just as huge. This magical sphere was super special. Just holding it could double your magic. Fang though wasn't as strong as before because Jin-Woo had turned him into a shadow soldier. But here's the cool part. The sphere made up for that loss. Jin-Woo decided to let Fang hold onto the sphere for a bit longer. The thing is, Jin-Woo didn't have any special skills that could use the sphere's power. Jin-Woo checked his skill menu, which showed he'd collected 107 shadows out of 8220, and stored 107 out of 15.5. Skills like shadow extraction and Monarch's domain weren't affected by the sphere of avarice. So to improve, he needed to boost his intelligence. Closing the menu with a sigh, funny Tim sounds filled the air, as soldiers crowded around him, admiration in their eyes after the battle. Jin-Woo couldn't help but crack a small smile, as he gazed around at the piles of defeated demons scattered everywhere. Wow, so many demons mean tons of cool stuff. He thought to himself with a grin. Then his screen lit up with a flurry of pings, each one signaling more awesome loot. Jin-Woo quickly grabbed all the drops, eager not to miss out on any goodies. Climbing onto Tank, his towering ice bear shadow soldier, he settled in ready for what came next. But Jin-Woo knew he still needed to find a way to get to the next floor, which meant one thing: more monster hunting. Alright, let's move, Jin-Woo shouted, kicking off with a playful giddy-up. Tank lumbered forward, his massive frame leading the charge. Behind him, all 1220 shadow soldiers followed in perfect sync, their movements almost like a well-oiled machine. As they marched on, Jin-Woo couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the best use of his time or resources. There had to be a smarter way to tackle this without dragging his whole army along. But for now he was stuck with this big slow convoy. There's power in numbers, especially if your team isn't super strong. But these soldiers had gotten way tougher, and were handling the demons like pros. Plus they now had some A-rank dungeon monsters fighting on their side. The army was seriously unstoppable. Creasy, one monster screamed as it charged into battle. Scree! Another cried out, swiping its claws at a demon. The soldiers worked together, taking down high-ranking demons, one after another. But here's the thing. Having such a huge army meant it took forever to get everyone moving, and find the monsters. Once they were in action though, the fights didn't last long. The problem was that each floor in Demon's Castle was as big as a major city. This felt endless. Jin-Woo split his army into 6 groups, each with 20 soldiers. He sent them off in different directions to hunt monsters. He gave 2 clear orders: defeat every enemy you meet, and don't let any get away. 2. Keep an eye out for that permit to the next floor. Jin-Woo told his team. He couldn't explain things clearly, so he relied on simple hand signals to get his point across. Since his soldiers couldn't grab items themselves, Jin-Woo had to go wherever they spotted the permit. That meant leaving some cool loot behind. But the permit was way more important. Let's move out, he said, and the 6 teams split up to scout ahead. Soon after entering the upper floors, Jin-Woo was thrilled as experience points started pouring in left and right. At first he was ecstatic watching his XP rise steadily, but then something strange caught his eye: the flow of XP was slowing down. This puzzled him because he expected more demons on higher levels, yet there were no low or mid-rank ones in sight. The usual suspects Jin-Woo ran into were high-ranking demons and the occasional archdemon. High-ranking demons handed over 700 experience points each, while archdemons dished out a whopping 2. Do I get less experience if my soldiers aren't right in the action? Hobby kept a close eye on the numbers popping up, and noticed they were definitely dropping over time. Something was off. Jin-Woo had an interesting thought. He realized that how far he was from his soldiers might affect how many experience points he got. Good to know. Thanks to the unique setup of Demon's Castle, Jin-Woo figured out something new about experience points. On the lower floors he hadn't sent out any soldiers. Instead he'd rather fight himself to gain combat experience and collect every last demon soul for his quest. It hit him then: dropping those higher XP spots hadn't been so bad after all. Sure, each run gave less XP than before, but it was faster and more efficient. The balance was better, and his level was finally moving again.
Donna! Another level!
Jin-Woo grinned, pumping his fist in the air.
Nice!
Kai hated leaving all that good stuff behind, but it didn't sting too much. This strategy was working. It helped him level up faster and clear the dungeon in no time. Jin-Woo was thrilled as he checked out his new level. It was like getting 2 awesome things in one go. His plan had worked perfectly, and now he could reach the 80th floor way sooner than he thought. As soon as he arrived, he called out his soldiers. Vivoom! In an instant, 19 of them appeared right before him. They had earned a bunch of experience points from battling monsters, which helped them level up fast. Oh, Tank jumped 10 levels already. He was shocked by this. Tank stood tall on his hind legs and let out a mighty roar toward the sky. He was thrilled to have reached level 28, and couldn't believe he'd caught his master's attention with such an impressive leap. Jin-Woo wasn't the only one gaining from these efficient hunts. He smiled, feeling ready for action. "All right, let's move out," he said. While his shadow soldiers split into 6 teams, Jin-Woo went solo. He was used to working alone and didn't need their help. Plus, he was pretty sure he could take on his entire army by himself. Except maybe Fang, who had that powerful buff from the sphere of avarice. But then Jin-Woo wondered, what if Fang joined the fight? Well, it would definitely make things more exciting. Jin-Woo's mind was elsewhere, drifting off into wild daydreams that felt totally impossible. About a week back, he decided to test something by commanding one of his shadow soldiers to attack him, just for kicks, and to see how it would go down. But here's the kicker: for the very first time, the soldier flat out refused to obey. Jin-Woo was baffled, unsure if it was some strange form of loyalty, or just plain defiance, but there was no budging that soldier. For Jin-Woo, who controlled these shadowy warriors, this wasn't exactly a letdown. But wait, where are the demons? He flipped Barca's dagger in his hand, scanning the area for any sign of monsters. There should definitely be some around here. Jin-Woo looked all around. He could sense something was there, but no monsters came into view. Didn't this feel familiar? Jin-Woo had been in a similar situation before. Suddenly the ground trembled, and a huge clump of dirt burst out. Key! Key! The sound sent chills through the air. Key! It continued, echoing eerily. Then 3 cackling creatures emerged at once, surrounding Jin-Woo. He frowned, but they thought he was scared and pounced with their mouths wide open. The demons were going straight for Jin-Woo's head, thinking it was the tastiest part. But Jin-Woo wasn't about to let them have a snack. He jumped into the air, spinning like a top, and bam! Before he even landed, the demons' heads hit the ground with a thud. "You defeated an archdemon. FQ defeated." Jin-Woo grinned and clapped his hands. "Got it," he said to himself. He remembered something from the last time he raided a C-rank dungeon with Junyo. Those stone men had hidden underground and popped up out of nowhere, just like this. Jin-Woo had been racking his brain trying to remember that fight, but now everything clicked into place. It felt like a big weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Jin-Woo grabbed the loot from the demons' bodies with a smile, and started walking away. But then he stopped after just a few steps. His eyes were fixed on the ground, staring intensely at the floor beneath him. "Are you coming out, or what?" It was hard to tell if it was the ground shaking or the demons trembling. Jin-Woo found it tough to leave the 80th floor. There must be some powerful demons out there, right? Another team returned to him as shadows. He'd recalled his soldiers because their constant destruction and regeneration were draining his mana. This was a first. From the 76th floor up to the 80th, splitting into smaller groups to hunt proved super effective. But why? It turns out most monsters here aren't just high-rank demons. These archdemons have a sneaky trick: they hide underground and pop up when you least expect it. That's what makes this floor so tricky. But here's the thing: these demons shouldn't have been strong enough to cause so much trouble. Something else was going on. All the soldiers who got beaten were from teams without leaders. The groups led by Fang, Igris, Iron, and Tank were doing okay, but the 2 teams that didn't have a leader were getting hammered. Were the demons targeting the weaker teams? If that's true, it means these monsters might be smarter than anyone thought, smart enough to figure out their enemies' weaknesses and strike where it hurts most. Imagine if these creatures were not just super strong but also super smart. Whatever they were a total nuisance. There were 4 teams left, 5, if you counted his own team. If those things could find the weakest link, they'd already be planning their next move. With that thought, Jin-Woo poofed away. Then in an instant he reappeared right where Tank was. He caught sight of a crew of shadow beasts, a group that included big, muscular black bears, with dark mist swirling off their backs, and towering orcs decked out in inky black armor. Tank, the fearless leader, strode ahead of the pack. This was going to be their next mission. Back when he was alive, Tank had commanded a legion of ice bears, and was once an unstoppable force on the battlefield. Even after Tank turned into a shadow, only a few soldiers could beat him in battle. But that didn't really matter. The leaders of the other teams, Iron, Igris, and Fang, were way stronger than him. Sure, Tank had a higher rank, but he was still just a foot soldier, and those leaders were on a whole different level. Igris and Iron were high-ranking knights, and Fang was an elite knight, even stronger than them. Tank, on the other hand, wasn't as strong, making him the weakest link in their group. If their enemies were smart, they'd target him next. Jin-Woo stayed back, hiding his presence as best as he could, while keeping an eye on things from a distance. He followed the shadow beast quietly, careful not to be noticed. Jin-Woo was right there, but his soldiers had no idea. Time dragged on and Jin-Woo couldn't believe they were waiting this long. But where was the enemy? Had he been wrong all along? Just as Jin-Woo wondered if his team had bitten off more than they could chew with all these monsters. His eyes locked onto something. Something was definitely up. The enemy had been hiding nearby the whole time, staying hidden until they were right next to their target, without Jin-Woo even noticing. Jin-Woo closed his eyes and switched on his special perception. It was like having a radar for danger. He could sense enemies all around. There were 4 heading straight for him, 20 of his own soldiers nearby, and 5 sneaky demons hiding underground. He opened his eyes and decided to leave the underground troublemakers for later. Stealth mode activated. With a soft whoosh, swoosh, Jin-Woo vanished from sight. Invisible and silent, he slipped through the shadows to join his waiting soldiers. Soon, Jin-Woo could see the enemy with his own eyes. They were riding horses, clip-clop, 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 and they were armed too. Yep, they were decked out in armor and sitting on horses. As they got closer, he could even see their names. Now, Jin-Woo had never seen a demon, no matter how high or low its rank, wear armor. So these must be the big-time players. Their names didn't disappoint. They read like a who's who of demon royalty, a demon noble, and 3 demon knights. Jin-Woo hadn't heard those titles before, but there they were in plain black letters. He could feel how much they hated him. These guys had to be the ones causing trouble for his soldiers. Their energy was thick with power and anger. Jin-Woo stayed hidden to watch longer. He was eager to learn more about the demons' powers, and how they fought. It was awesome that some demons could beat his shadow soldiers, so he was excited to see what would happen next. Jin-Woo stood back so he wouldn't get in the way of the fight between his soldiers and these new demons. Tank spotted the demons and everyone quickly jumped off their horses. I guess the horses were just for getting around. Jin-Woo watched the demons with a lot of curiosity, ready to see what they could do. Spotting the enemy, the shadow soldiers erupted into a fierce warrior battle cry and charged forward first. The fight was on. Rosa. Tank took charge. With all his might he sprinted ahead, and stood tall in front of the demons. If these had been ordinary humans, they would probably passed out from fear, but the demons weren't scared at all, ready to rumble. Tank swung one of his huge front legs through the air with all his might. Butch, his paw sliced through the air way faster than you'd expect for such a big guy. Jin-Woo wasn't ready for that kind of speed. He barely managed to leap over Tank's leg, avoiding the swipe by a hair. But just when Jin-Woo thought he was safe, another surprise came his way. The noble demon spun through the air and struck Tank with its spear. Shock. The attack was so powerful that it tore a gaping hole the size of a watermelon in Tank's chest. The noble moved like a dancer, swift and precise. Despite its small size, Jin-Woo couldn't help but be amazed by their speed and strength. This wasn't just any ordinary monster. And as he looked around, he realized the others were just as dangerous. The 3 knights guarding it were super strong. The fight wasn't even fair. These shadow soldiers didn't stand a chance against the demons. Unlike big, clumsy archdemons that are easy to defeat, these demon knights, with their human-like forms, effortlessly crushed the shadow beasts. That's why the shadow beast couldn't heal fast enough. Jin-Woo was shocked and confused. Arawu. He roared in frustration. Arg. The sound of clashing echoed as swords and spears sliced through the shadow beasts, cutting them down before they could even regenerate. Jin-Woo felt stuck. His shock turned into anger, and his anger turned into frustration. The shadow soldiers were immortal, as long as Jin-Woo had mana. If he ran out, they'd fade into shadows and retreat back to him. Aru. Jin-Woo gritted his teeth. He hated seeing his soldiers get cut down like this. It felt weird, like watching a little brother come home beaten up after a fight. He couldn't take it anymore. With a sharp command, Jin-Woo called his soldiers back. The shadow creatures quickly disappeared under Jin-Woo, and joined his shadow. The noble demons exchanged glances, and nodded, celebrating their third victory. Suddenly, Jin-Woo appeared in the middle of them with a loud vvoom. As he turned off his stealth skill, the demons jumped back in surprise but quickly recovered and attacked. Jin-Woo swung his fists, knocking 2 knights to the ground, and flipping another that charged at him. The ground cracked loudly, and a message popped up. You have defeated a demon knight. You have acquired 3,000 experience points. This happened 3 times. Jin-Woo took down 3 monsters in the blink of an eye, just 3 quick moves, and they were done for. These were just the small fries though. He was after the big boss. His gaze locked onto the demon noble. The noble flinched the moment their eyes met, then jabbed his spear in Jin-Woo's direction. It turns out monsters do get scared, and this one was terrified. The demon's spear wobbled slightly, something that hadn't happened when it fought those shadowy soldiers. Being able to tell how strong someone is can be a powerful tool. After all, just because you feel fear doesn't mean I'm going easy on you. Jin-Woo dove forward just as the demon stabbed its spear at him. Jin-Woo dodged just in time, barely escaping the demon's first attack. But what really caught him off guard was how the demon kept swinging that spear, while midair. The first thrust went straight for his face, the second sliced toward his neck, and the third strike aimed right at his chest. His opponent's moves were smooth like flowing water, but Jin-Woo was ready for every strike, blocking them all with Barca's dagger. When the noble aimed a deadly thrust at Jin-Woo's chest, Jin-Woo swung Barca's dagger in a flash, and sliced the spear handle clean in 2. The noble froze in shock, staring at the broken spear in disbelief. Just like that, the fight was over. Even if 3 or 4 top A-rank hunters came at him all at once, they wouldn't stand a chance against Jin-Woo. Talk about bad luck, running into him was not ideal. Jin-Woo snagged the demon's helmet like it was his last hope. The demon let out a loud arg, as it realized it was caught off guard. It struggled to break loose, but Jin-Woo's hold was iron tight. No way the demon was escaping. With a surge of energy, he used his left hand to yank off the helmet, aiming straight for the demon's neck. As expected, the helmet came off easily with a soft thud. Jin-Woo held Barca's dagger high above his head. "Surrender. I surrender," he shouted. Jin-Woo paused mid-swing. A woman. The face under the helmet was definitely female, though Jin-Woo didn't really care if the demon was male or female. But when the monster realized her words had reached him, she dropped to her knees and pressed her forehead against the ground. Jin-Woo wasn't so cold-hearted that he'd kill her on the spot. "I'm so sorry," the woman stuttered. "We were wrong. Please spare my life." She was actually begging for mercy now. It was shocking, this monster, asking for its life. Jin-Woo stared at the small creature in total confusion. Sure, he knew magic beasts could be smart, but this monster was something entirely different. He didn't know what to say, or how to react. After struggling to find his words, he finally asked, "Are you asking me to spare your life after attacking my soldiers?" The demon noble's voice trembled as she replied, "I've done something terribly wrong." She slammed her forehead against the ground. "Protecting this place has always been my family's responsibility. We couldn't just watch as our kind was hunted by those soldiers. Please spare my life, and I'll owe you forever," Jin-Woo said. The demons had a point after all. Jin-Woo and his soldiers had attacked them without warning. So he changed his question. "How can you ask someone who killed your soldiers to let you live? It's a knight's duty to protect their master," came the reply.